So finally, one of the best video game series has at long last come to Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. I am talking about the fantastic Yakuza / Like a Dragon series. Yes, it used to be called Yakuza, now it's called Like a Dragon. The re-releases of the old games are still called Yakuza. You can call it either one. Frankly, they probably should have just stuck with the Yakuza title, but whatever. After years of really nothing at all from the Yakuza series on Nintendo Switch, we now have Yakuza 0 and Yakuza Kiwami on the Switch, with Yakuza Kiwami 2 coming to the Switch 2 on November 13th. It feels cliche to say, oh, this series would be perfect on the Switch. That's a conversation we've been having since 2017. But literally, this series is perfect for the Switch. I think the hybrid nature of the Switch is perfect for it because there are these big cinematic moments, but they're also long games that really can thrive in handheld play. You'll be looking at 30 to 40 hours for each one, and that can be on the low end. Some of them are like 80 to 100. And it really helps to be able to get through a long game when you do have that kind of flexibility. What's actually interesting is that these Yakuza games on the Switch are not the first time that Yakuza has been on a Nintendo console. Because actually the Wii U had HD remasters of Yakuza 1 and 2. But I want to make it clear, those are not Yakuza Kiwami and Yakuza Kiwami 2, which are remakes of the original PS2 games. These are the PS2 games just in HD on the Wii U. And if it didn't sell well, wow, people didn't want to play PS2 games on the Wii U? Shocker. Very much an odd thing, but after that, the series disappeared from Nintendo for a long time, up until recently. For a while, the developers were adamant that the series would not come to the Switch, saying that the Switch was for kids and that these are very mature games, which has been historically true for a lot of Nintendo systems, but if any of them have disproven that, it would be the Switch. Because I'm seeing mature game after mature game come to it, but still no Yakuza for such a long time. There was also a really weird quote in a 2022 interview with the head of the studio that makes all the Yakuza games, saying that the Switch is a daytime console and that they are nighttime people, which I kind of get what he's saying there, but it doesn't make it any less weird. And also, even though the Yakuza games are very mature on the whole, with a lot of really emotional, dramatic moments, there's also a lot of goofy, silly humor that I think Nintendo fans would like and would fit in well with the console's audience. So the fact that it's taken this long is very strange. If you would ever ask me, are we going to get GTA on the Switch or Yakuza on the Switch first? I would have said Yakuza 1,000 times, but for some reason we got GTA first. Maybe that's what finally inspired them, actually. So I have been into the Yakuza series for a while now, and I kind of got into it very accidentally. I had a PSN gift card, and I saw the Origins collection, which was 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2, coincidentally, the 3 that are out on the Switch, on a sale on the PSN store for like less than $5. And I thought, you know, why not? I heard these games are good, it's only a few bucks, let's give it a try. And I got instantly hooked with Yakuza 0, and I've basically played through all of the games in the series at this point. I have played the entire mainline series, plus a few of the spin-offs, those being Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, and the most recent entry, Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Bangers, all of them. The series mostly centers around the protagonist Kazuma Kiryu, who I think is one of the best main characters in all of gaming. He has a really good balance of being cool and tough while also being really kind, and he always goes out of his way to help people. It's funny because he's very much the ideal positive role model of masculinity that I think a lot of the guys who end up in that whole weird Red Bull thing should really go towards. Because if you're ever struggling in life with a big decision, just ask yourself, what would KIRYU do? The series is such a great blend of serious drama with total absurdity in a way that I don't think I've really seen happen in another video game series, especially on the Switch. So this is really a match made in heaven now that these games are finally on the platform. It's great that other people are going to be able to experience these games in handheld, because I played Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii on my Steam Deck for a lot of the time, and it was just such a perfect fit. I think a lot of the big story-driven games like these are kind of like reading a good book, where you just want to like get cozy with it in your hands right in front of you instead of playing it on a TV. So the Yakuza series is a lot of games, but there are 2 out on the Switch right now, Yakuza 0 and Yakuza Kiwami. Then on the Switch 2, coming out on November 13th, there is Yakuza Kiwami 2. So Yakuza 0 is a prequel to the entire series, Kiwami is a remake of the first game, and Kiwami 2 is a remake of the second game. So I think the best way to play them is to start with 0, then Kiwami 2. So I do hope that all of the games in the series will eventually come to the Switch, and if enough people buy these 3, then they probably will. But I would recommend getting started on these now, because they're long games, so if you start playing 0 and then go through the next 2 after that, you probably won't finish all 3 before the next one is on the way. So let's start going through a bit of Yakuza 0. This one is widely regarded as the best in the series, and it's kind of hard to disagree with that. There are 2 protagonists, KIRYU and Majima, who are separate but also linked in their stories, and it's cool to see how both worlds converge later on as you go through the narrative. The 2 of them are very different, but they're both lovable in their own ways, so none of them feels like a second fiddle. You flip between 2 cities, Kamurocho in Tokyo and Sotenburi in Osaka, both of which are kind of seedy underground places, and they are just so packed and so dense. They're filled with restaurants to eat at, stores to shop at, NPCs to talk to, and tons of side quests, which the series calls sub-stories. And these sub-stories are really what I think makes Yakuza what it is, because a lot of them will be pretty emotional, but they'll also be really funny, and the sub-stories in Yakuza 0 are really some of the best. There's a good one where you have to coach a band into seeming tough. There's one where you have to go on a date with a girl with her father and be her fake boyfriend to impress him. And then there's one where you join a cult. They're all really creative and unique, and just so fun to go through them all. So it's primarily a beat 'em up style game, but each character has 4 different fighting styles that you can go through. So you can switch through them on the fly, and you'll have to do that depending on who you're fighting. So if it's a lot of weak enemies, you'll want to pick one style. If it's one big tough enemy, you'll want to pick another. But even if you don't want to do the recommended ones, it's just fun to flip through them and just have different styles to fight in, so none get too old. What's also cool is that there will always be objects around on the ground that you can pick up and use as weapons, which turns into some really funny scenes of you beating up people with bicycles and stuff. And there is no end to what kind of objects that you'll use in a fight, so it just seems like it can always get more and more ridiculous. There's also a pretty deep level of customization you can put into your characters too, so you can tailor them to how you want to fight. And so this one is a prequel to the entire series and takes place in the 80s. And since it's a prequel, a lot of the characters in this game will pop up in games later down the line. So if you go through the entire series, it's really cool to see who comes up. Because what's cool about the Yakuza series is that for the most part, they take place in the exact same time period as the games are released. So like Yakuza 1 came out in 2005 and it takes place in 2005. Last main entry in the series, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, came out in 2024 and it takes place in 2024. So if you go through the whole thing, you really get to see a lot of these characters grow up in a way that not many games offer. And so if you only play one Yakuza game, make it this one. You don't need any extra context going into it. It's not like you're jumping into a series at the midpoint, you're jumping in at the very start. But if you do think you're gonna only play one and you play this one, I can pretty much guarantee you're gonna end up playing more because it's just that good. Next we have Yakuza Kiwami. So this is a remake of the original game from the PS2. I've never played that one. Maybe I'll dive into the Wii U version one day. But this is a really great remake, so I don't really feel that much pull to go back to that. You don't play as Majima in this one, you only play as KIRYU, and it's fully his story. It gets really emotional, really personal, really dramatic. Expect to feel some things when you play this. The combat style switching from 0 turns, which is really awesome. I would say that the narrative is a little bit under 0's, But that's not anything bad. That's just because Zero's story is so good. This one is still excellent. It's just a hair under Zero's, but pretty much every other game is. So it's still fantastic. Lots of good twists that will make you just want to keep playing until you see it to the end. You also don't play in Sotenburi at all. You're just in Kamurocho, but that's also fine. The city itself is still dense with tons of side content, tons of characters to talk to. Oh, and the mini games. You gotta mention the mini games. There's mini games like karaoke, billiards, dancing, all sorts of really in-depth stuff. A lot of these games could honestly be their own game for like $10 or so. And pretty much every game in the series has all these mini games, so you're gonna be seeing them pop up again, but they're still fun to partake in each time. And so then there is Yakuza Kiwami 2, coming out soon. What's notable about this game is that it's in the Dragon engine, which is the engine that they use to make all the modern Yakuza games with. And I wouldn't really mention this, but one, it looks really nice, like way better than the past Yakuza games. So you're going to notice a definite big visual upgrade, but also because the engine is used in all the modern games, it gives me hope that they're going to keep doing this, because I would love to get some of the later games on the Switch, especially the turn-based ones, which would just fit so perfectly. There isn't the combat style switching this time, but the combat is still really good. The story is also awesome. The cutscenes look really great in the new engine, and it introduces some great characters like Daigo Dojima, who is a mainstay throughout the rest of the series, and then it also introduces one of the best villains, Ryuji Goda. Sotenburi is back this time, so you have 2 cities to explore, which is cool. And again, they both look fantastic. So yeah, I would recommend going 0, Kiwami 1, Kiwami 2. You are going to have a fantastic time. And if these games sell well, which I hope they do because they're great, I would love to see the rest of the saga come to the Switch. Because not only is a great series now being able to be exposed to a massive new audience, also, this massive new audience gets something that they haven't really had before. Because believe me when I say, there's not really any other games like the Yakuza series out there. Some are similar, like Persona is kinda similar. Final Fantasy VII Remake series is kinda similar in some ways. But really, there's nothing quite else like it. Big, extended, in-depth narrative, but also tons and tons of side content. It's just such a really interesting balance between a deeply serious and dramatic main story and then just total goofiness the rest of the time for all the side stuff. So even though I got into the series completely accidentally, I'm so happy I did, because now I get so excited whenever a new game is announced. I still need to go back and play some of the spin-offs, so I'm excited to do that. It is just a ton of great content, a really high bar of quality throughout the entire series, and you just don't want to stop playing them once you start. So go out, buy the games, at least buy Yakuza 0, give it a shot. I can pretty much guarantee that you will love it, because once you play Yakuza 0, you are just going to want to go through them one after the other up until the end.